And welcome to Off the Dome Sports, joined by hosts Sean and Nick. And we have a special show for you in store tonight on a beautiful Sunday. I don't know how it is for you up in Pennsylvania, Nick, but it's looking great here in the great state of North Carolina. So tonight's a special show. We have a special guest, and he's setting up right now. We're gonna have him on just in a couple secs with Bob Rose of Athlon Sports. How you feeling, Nick? How's it going?
Man, I'm good. It's been warm up here lately. My birthday's on Friday, on the 14th. It's going to be like 65 degrees, so looking forward to that. Just got a little custody arrangement done with my son's mother, so he'll start spending the night next weekend. So excited for that. Things are looking good in life, man, and ready to talk some Saints news here.
And with that being said, we're going to bring on our guest, credentialed writer covering the Saints and Pitt with Athlon Sports and co-host of the Bayou Blitz Podcast. They just went live this morning. Bob, how's it going? Long time. We finally got you back on the show. It feels great. How's it going?
Sean, Nick, I'm hanging in there, guys. Thanks for having me. And Nick, like you said, up here in Western Pennsylvania, it's about as good as it's going to get for springtime, weather-wise. So, I mean, it is what it is. But I appreciate you guys having me on. And where anybody in Saints media, knows how crazy life has been over the last couple of months, and it's only going to get more chaotic over the next few weeks for sure.
Yeah. Perfect time. I mean, I just feel like, if the Saints wasn't bad last year and they made the playoffs, it wouldn't be as exciting of an offseason as it is right now. So it's like, Nick and I, we're doing this for fun. You do this for a living. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, it's just a great time. It's like Little Wayne and the Hot Boys. It's a hot summer, So, yeah, man, I'm ready to talk about some Saints football. Kind of went over the topics. I was also talking with Nick pre-show. The week started off with a bunch of players requesting trades. You got one in DK Metcalf in Seattle. They just traded Geno Smith. Mm-hmm. And you got the Bengals with Jamar Chase and Trey Hendrickson, the big one, Trey Hendrickson. With that being said, I kind of want to get your perspective on, are the Saints are in the trade market? Because there's been a lot of trades going on, and what would be the realistic trades that they would go after? Because, let's be honest, DK or Trey Hendrickson is kind of a tad bit unrealistic. What do you say, Bob?
Yeah, it is unrealistic. I mean, it's a shame that they let Trey Hendrickson get out of the building in the first place, years ago. And I know a lot of Saints fans, will never, ever forgive Mickey Loomis for that. And I get why, but I also get why the decision was made at the time. It turned out to be an incorrect one, but the logic behind what their thinking was at the time was sound. But once Trey got out, and has blossomed into what he's become with the Bengals. You're right. Getting Trey Hendrickson, getting a DK Metcalf. I never thought Myles Garrett was going to leave the Cleveland Browns in the first place, but after he requested his trade, never thought any of those guys were going to be a realistic possibility. And honestly, guys, Kellen Moore, this team, they want to get younger. They're looking to clear the books. So, not to sound boring, but they ain't going to be trading for anybody. Any trades that they make is just going to be for draft capital. And, frankly, you might see a couple veterans moved, given the right situation. But if you're asking me who could the Saints trade for, my answer is nobody. Who could the Saints trade away? That's a little bit different answer.
Bob, that makes me feel good because leading up to the show, just doing my research this afternoon, I'm like, dude, the Saints don't really make big trades like this per se. But I'm like, in this year specifically, it's even more just not unrealistic, if you will. Like, it's just not something they do, and they really can't afford to right now.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, this team's trying to clear salary cap space, not compound their salary cap problems. And when you trade for a DK Metcalf or Myles Garrett, any of those guys, it's because you are either right on the cusp of believing you're a Super Bowl contender, or B, you're looking for a move. You're looking to trade for a franchise quarterback because you don't have one. Well, there are no franchise quarterbacks, at least that we know of, on the trading block. And we just covered that the Saints are realistically not contenders right now. So to make a move for the DK Metcalf, Myles Garrett, Cooper Kupp, and I know I wrote about the possibility of trading for Cooper Kupp, but even though we write about this stuff, it doesn't necessarily mean that we believe it's going to happen. But you make a trade for any of these guys, it's because if you're the team that does it, it's because you believe that they are the final piece in your championship puzzle, and the Saints just aren't there right now.
Agreed.
Well, let's just talk about it maybe more on the holistic side now. I know, just maybe hypothetically here. Like I was talking with Nick earlier in the league, we were talking about DK Metcalf specifically because, I kind of think he would be the perfect wide receiver for Derek Carr. And then heading to next year, you can kind of get a quarterback that you think would pair well with DK Metcalf. Obviously he's a guy that is coming up on an extension, and this is why that trade is trying to facilitate. He's a guy you could probably, extend and be one of them core guys that you keep pushing the money down the road, and you sign him to a new extension, and you could possibly get him cheap for this upcoming year's cap hit and just pay him down the road. And he's still relatively young. And, I was kind of like, okay, what do the Seahawks want? They reported a first-round pick. We're not going to give the 9th overall pick. So I was thinking, what about maybe like a third round in Chris Olave? Because, Nick brought up a good point that, Chris Olave, great wide receiver, but, always concussed, which is a red flag. And also he seems like he would work better as a number 2. So, like, you trade Olave, goes back to his old offense coordinator in Kubiak for 1 year, and, you got the familiarity there, and you get DK Metcalf in New Orleans. Hey, you might have something there.
You bring up a tantalizing possibility, but and I love Chris Olave. Don't get me wrong; I've loved him since his Ohio State days. But his value right now is at the lowest it could possibly be.
Can't be any lower.
Right, because he's a concussion waiting to happen, and you don't know when the next one is going to be the last one. Any team, whether it's a team potentially trading for Chris Olave or the Saints trying to sit here and make up their mind before early May whether to pick up Chris Olave's fifth-year rookie option. And I, by the way, I think that they will. But as far as a long-term possibility, that's what you have to look at. Chris is still a young guy, a couple years younger than DK, who's still on the younger side of 30. I'm not going to say the right side of 30. I'm going to say the younger side of 30. So to offer Chris Olave and a potential deal for DK Metcalf, it's an interesting possibility. But given that Chris's value is so low, you're still going to have to throw in a second or one of your third-round draft choices. And I say again, they need these picks to get younger, to revitalize their nucleus, and to get cheaper. And if you're gonna trade for a DK Metcalf, you better be prepared to sign him for an extension. Otherwise, you're literally giving away assets. And if you're going to sign him for an extension, what kind of money are you willing to part with, and B, is DK willing to accept? Because if it's a deal that you can get done, okay, maybe you're basically swapping Olave for DK and losing a draft pick, a day 2 draft pick, in the process. if you believe that you can rebuild that quickly, maybe you do make that deal. Because I do agree, as much as I love Chris Olave, he's not a number one. DK Metcalf more fits the profile for what Kellen Moore has had every single stop he's had in his NFL career. In Dallas, he had CeeDee Lamb, big playmaker. In Philadelphia, obviously they had AJ Brown, big body playmaker. When he was with the Chargers, they they drafted Quentin Johnston in the first round with the idea that he's going to be a big body playmaker. I love Olave. I love Shaheed even more, but neither of those guys fit that profile. So I do believe that the Saints at the end of the day are going to target a bigger receiver, whether it's in the draft or free agency. DK Metcalf would certainly fit that prototype, but again, the finances and the assets that you're willing to lose involved. How quickly do you believe that you can turn it around as a team? If you have confidence in your scouting department that you're going to draft well, and that some of these other younger draft picks are going to develop like we haven't seen them do yet, then okay, bringing in a DK Metcalf would help kind of fast forward that rebuild into a perennial playoff contender. But again, I can't see it happening.
And I think that's a perfect segue into free agency. I don't know if you can hear my dog barking, but just try to ignore that. Anyways, perfect segue into free agency. And, what you were mentioning about the wide receiver position for the Saints, they can either go free agency or draft. I have a perfect name in my head that, just had a, lackluster of a season with the Jets and the Raiders. Davante Adams, is that a guy you go after?
There are connections there. I mean, everybody knows the connection between Davante and Derek Carr. But I mean, how deep are you going to pay attention to that connection? Yeah, I know they just restructured Carr. We know. Yeah, I've said for months that Derek Carr, like it or not, was going to be the quarterback for 2025. I mean, they had no choice. They had no choice.
None.
But I will say this: Derek Carr's not going to be the quarterback in 2026. So, Davante Adams, the Davante Derek connection. If Derek's only going to be your quarterback for 1 year, then I don't think you make that move. Davante's best days are behind him. He's still a good wide receiver, but he's not the number one anymore, the kind of guy that defenses game plan to stop, things like that. And ideally that's the kind of guy that you want to bring in. Now there's another connection on the Saints coaching staff, the wide receiver coach, Keith Williams. He coached Davante Adams at Fresno State, along with Derek Carr, of course. So, I mean, there is a connection there that goes beyond Derek Carr. But if you bring in a Davante Adams, it's probably only going to be for a 1 year deal anyway. Davante and Derek, if you're planning on both of them being out the door in 2026, then I don't think you bring in a Davante Adams right now. You look to bring in a younger guy, maybe a Cooper Kupp if he gets released by the Rams, not trade for him. A Keenan Allen, who played for Kellen Moore with the Chargers. You look for a guy like that. I'm not completely discounting the Davante Adams possibility. I just, the people that think it's going to happen because of the Derek Carr connection, if Derek Carr is not going to be your quarterback in 2026, then you don't sign Davante Adams now.
So, Bob, 15 minutes ago, call it breaking news if you want. Davante Adams for the Rams, 2 year deal, worth $46 million. So,
wow,
there you go.
There's your answer.
Free agency has started. So yeah, it's going to be probably a slow free agency starting off for the Saints, and we'll probably get that second, third wave. And, in other news, I think we re-signed Dante Pettis about an hour ago, if I'm not mistaken. So, maybe we bring back MVS as well, which Nick is a big fan, and I'm I like it too. He had a great season for off the streets, And then with Carr's restructure, I think, like you just said, you had no other option. Nick and I called it, or we literally talked about it on our first 3 episodes. Like, we have multiple sound bites that we posted out there about it, and everybody disbelieve that we were just going to cut them and had $51 million in dead cap. Like, you can't, you have to be in cap compliance. And, and not only that, this is important. Like, the Saints are going to end up, in my opinion, and, maybe chime back right after this, because maybe to see if it's in a different way. But, the Saints are going to end up restructure a couple more players. Nick and I went over it on the spot track. It's got a good, calculator when it comes to the salary cap. But, there's a possibility where they can get under the cap for about $20 million, and maybe we can get a guy like a Metcalf Becton, or, offload the heavy part of the contract later down the road, his first year, basically for free. You know what I'm saying? Like, very, very small cap hit his first year, possibly, but you still got the guaranteed money. And then we said Mike Gesicki, but he ended up going back to the Bengals. And guys to fill out some of the holes, like we have that maybe that you're not going to end up drafting, if that makes sense. Maybe save the draft for more impactful players. And I think, this free agency is important with the amount of budget we have, because, this can determine if we have enough depth, to win games later down the road, and not when we have injuries and end up seasons over with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we saw that play out last year. When injuries hit the Saints, it exposed them for what they really were. A thin, poorly coached team. And that is what it is. It's in the past now. But this team now knows going forward. They hope they fix the poorly coached part with by bringing in Kellen Moore and a staff I really like. But everybody wants to talk about offense, and yes, there are needs on offense. You want a playmaking tight end. You need depth in the backfield. You need a big body wide receiver, and God knows you need interior offensive line help. But
that defense is bad.
Yeah. And I keep pounding this drum, and Nick, whenever you see me post or write an article about it, you chime in and agree. Sean, you too. This defense is not only bad, it got old fast. Now you have Brandon Staley here. Brandon Staley has run a 3-4 scheme everywhere he's been in his NFL career, everywhere. So you'd be a fool not to expect him to do that in New Orleans. Well, you look at that roster for the Saints and you tell me who's going to be your stand-up edge rusher. Nobody's there, right? Especially if you let Chase Young walk out the building, and I think he will.
Zach Bond. Oh, wait a second. Shit.
He was with the Eagles.
I was going to say Zach Bond. Oh, wait.
Zach, yeah, is right.
There's another one that got away.
But yeah, a year too late, as it turned out. I never thought Zach Bond was a good fit for Dennis Allen's scheme. I always, even the night that they drafted him, I said, Zach Bond is more of a fit in a 3-4 scheme, like the type the Steelers have run for decades. And lo and behold, he goes to Philadelphia, 3-4 scheme. Vic Fangio, who mentored Brandon Staley, by the way. Vic Fangio's 3-4 scheme. Zach Bond becomes a Pro Bowler. You need to see guys like that in. There's no edge rusher. There's no nose tackle. Demario Davis can play in any system. But who's going to be the linebackers other than that? Pete Werner, he's a serviceable guy, but he's not a momentum changer. So, my point is the focus is going to be on the defensive side, folks. Early in the draft, I expect them to go for an edge rusher. Free agency, like you said, Sean, and I'm in 100% agreement. They're gonna be very careful with their free agent spending. But anybody that says, and the three of us, along with my co-host Brendan and my boss at Athlon, John, we have it out with Saints fans every single year when they say, "Oh, the Saints aren't going to be able to afford anybody." Is this your first day on earth? hate Mickey Loomis all you want, but the one thing that man and his staff will do is create salary cap space. So the Saints are going to sign people. They're just going to be smart about it. And by smart about it, I mean look for defensive players, mid-tier defensive players who have played either directly for Brandon Staley or in a system that he runs. Vic Fangio, the system they're running out in Denver, guys that fit that system or are familiar with Staley. That's who I think the free agency targets are going to be.
Absolutely, and that's great stuff. And you mentioned the draft, which I'll pop one question for you because when you get off, we're going to talk about the top 3 running backs. Last episode, we did the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft, and if there were a possibility at 9th overall, and would you take it? So with the running backs, you got, I would say the top 3 is Gentry, Hampton, Caleb Johnson. Hampton's projected late first round. Gentry obviously can go anywhere from top 10 to top 20. And I think Caleb Johnson's right on that line of being an early second. Maybe he'll sneak in the first. Maybe.
Man, so, they are higher on running backs than I am. God.
Right.
Spoiler.
So if let's say Gentry would be the main running back, he's available at 9. Would you take him?
Wow. I mean, we just got done talking about the defensive side, and I don't stray from that. But there are 2 guys that when they pop up in conversation, Gentry being one and Tyler Warren, the versatile tight end from Penn State, being the other. And I've gotten asked this question a bunch so far. If either one or both of them are on the board for Kellen Moore, an offensive guy, when the Saints pick at 9, I tell you guys, that's going to be tough to pass up. I think I consider it. I consider it strongly because edge rusher, at least by my analysis, edge rusher is a deep spot. Safety is a deep spot, a major need for this team, if you ask me. But and I say this all the time, when you have a game breaker, if you have a Randy Moss, I'm showing my age a little bit here, going back to the 98 draft. If you have a Randy Moss on the board, when you're the Minnesota Vikings and you already have Chris Carter and Jake Reed, how are you going to pass up Randy Moss? The answer is you don't. You draft Randy Moss. Yeah. If you think Gentry is that guy, that guy for an offensive coordinator who just had a 2,000-yard rusher, then you select Gentry. Do I think that it'll happen? No, I actually think that Gentry could even be a top 5 pick. And frankly, I'm hoping that the Saints do not have to make that decision, and that he is off the board. I love Gentry. I'd love him in a Saints uniform, but edge rusher. Edge rusher is such a need right now. And I know Saints fans have PTSD from Marcus Davenport and Peyton Turner and Isaiah Foskey, but the reason why edge rusher is such a need is because they failed with those picks. That's why you still need it. Yep. You had to draft an offensive tackle last year because you failed. It failed with your previous couple picks. You have to do it until you get it right. But since Kellen Moore is an offensive guy, I think if Ashton Gentry is on the board at 9, the Saints do pick him.
Oh wow! Oh man! Hey, at least if you are drafting him, you are absolutely right, Bob. Because then you think he's the guy, and if that's the case, then he is an impactful player, and maybe you get back to that thunder and lightning like you had with. Or what's the correct term for Ingram and Kamara? What they call themselves?
Boom and zoom, wasn't it?
Boom and zoom. Maybe you get back to that boom and zoom. Gentry, I had a ceiling up to Zeke Elliott in his prime, and then I have a floor of Zach Moss, and that's my ceiling. That's my floor. With that being said, if that pass rusher is there, either a James Pierce out of Tennessee who had a phenomenal combine, which would be perfect in Staley's new 3-4 defense, or because you're going to need fast guys that can get to the quarterback, maybe could drop off in coverage a little bit and hang with those tight ends. Or if Mikael Williams is there, maybe you go him. Or if Carter keeps having these injury reports come out.
Oh, keep falling, baby.
Right.
Falls. You gotta take Carter, even if it's over Gentry. But
yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But Nick, do you have any more questions for Bob before we let him out of here?
Yeah, Bob. This, I'm not sure if Sean, you probably didn't ask you this before coming on here, but what are your overall thoughts of Derek Carr's tenure in New Orleans? I mean, personally, I think he's exceeded his contract when healthy. I mean, he has not played with the player. He has not had a full deck of cards. This is not what he signed up for. And I think that he has done far more than one could have thought that he would do with what's been given to him. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the Derek Carr experience. So
listen, I'm somewhere in between what you just said and all the Saints fans calling him the worst thing to ever walk the earth. I'm right in between. Derek Carr is an average quarterback, average to above average quarterback that you can win football games with. The reason why, two reasons why so many Saints fans have turned on Derek Carr. One, he ain't Drew Brees, and that was a no-win situation for him from the start. We've seen a ton of quarterbacks go through this, the ones that have had to follow John Elway and Dan Marino and Jim Kelly and Terry Bradshaw. That's what Derek Carr is going through. So it was a no-win situation in the eyes of some fans in that aspect. And number two, Derek Carr hasn't helped himself because he's kind of been a dick. Let's call a spade a spade. I mean, he's acted like a petulant child on the field, during his first year. I didn't see that as much last year. And then his off the field, comments or, not even showing your face in your football team's city when they host the Super Bowl. That you don't do that. I could see not staying in the city, but to not show show your face at all. He's created a PR nightmare for himself. And that's caused a lot of Saints fans who were looking for an excuse to hate him. That's made it easy for them to hate him. Sure. And that's unfortunate because on the field, Nick, I mean, like you said, he's not been a bad quarterback. I would take, and I said this coming into the year, that I had Derek Carr ranked somewhere between 12 and 15 when I ranked the 32 starting quarterbacks. And for all you fans who wanted him gone, just cut him, take the cap hit and sign Kirk Cousins. Sign insert name here, whether it's Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson or Sam Darnold. And the list can go on and on. My response was, okay, so let's see. You want to cut Carr, take the cap hit, and then sign a guy who's no better and probably worse than Derek Carr for that same price tag. You're signing the same guy and doubling, if not tripling, your price tag at quarterback. In a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, that's why Derek Carr is the Saints quarterback in 2025, because of that reason. That, and there's, outside of Cam Ward, who I really like, there's no answer in the draft that I see. Kellen Moore may see differently. I don't think so. Therefore, you can win with a Derek Carr if you have the talent around him. One of the problems is that they haven't had the talent around him. And it's the same for the Spencer Rattlers haters. I personally believe Spencer is no more than a serviceable starter or a competent backup. But you can't tell that from last year's results because he was playing with a JV squad. Derek Carr was playing with a JV squad. When you lose your two starting wide receivers, and then a guy who was progressing really nicely in Bub Means, when you lose him too, and you're signing guys off the street to literally come in on 4 days' notice and play. When you lose your literally entire starting offensive line for multiple weeks in a row. Yep. And you have no competent running back behind Alvin Kamara, which means you're telegraphing to the defense exactly what you're going to do based off where Kamara is lined up on the formation. I don't care if you are a John Elway or a Dan Marino or a Drew Brees. Ain't no quarterback going to look like world beaters in that. And, Carr has been an average to above average quarterback at his best. You can win with those guys. What Kellen Moore's job now is to, if Derek Carr isn't Kellen Moore's quarterback, and it's understandable if he's not, a coach has the right to pick his guy. Sure. If you don't have an elite quarterback, then your solution to that has to be, I need to fill out the rest of my football team with as much talent as possible until I get my guy. If you do that, you can win games with Derek Carr. We've seen it. Yeah, we've seen it. And, Derek didn't really start to go bad until the rest of the team around him started dropping like flies. Am I a big Derek Carr supporter? Am I a big Derek Carr fan? No. Would I take Derek Carr over every other available veteran quarterback right now? 100%.
Yes. Thank you. All right. Okay.
And this is why Bob is one of the best in the business amongst Saints media. We're not just saying that, but that was great stuff. And Bob, we really appreciate you for coming on and taking time out your day to join us. Where can we find you on all your social media?
Boys, it's been my pleasure. Hopefully we can get together and do this again, either right before the draft or immediately after. One of the two, because I know you guys are as heavy and deep into the draft as I am. And Sean, you and I have collaborated on draft projects before. So let's make sure we do it again. In the meantime, folks, if you do already follow me, thank you, and nothing but love for you. I really appreciate everything that you do for all of us in Saints media. If you don't follow me and wish to, the easiest way is to go to Athlon Sports. John Hendrickson and I do all the coverage for your New Orleans Saints on Athlon Sports at an internal site called Inside the Saints. I also post all of my articles on my personal social media pages, which is Bob Rose on Facebook and at Bobby R 2613. And I know you all are fans of checking out your guys, Sean and Nick, every single week. But if you have time to check out another halfway decent podcast, check out the Bayou Blitz. I'm the co-host along with my good friend Brendan Boylan, who will be joining us at Athlon Sports. We typically like to go on live Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Central Time. Lately, we've been moving around like crazy because of each other's schedules. But I post the links to Bayou Blitz on my personal media pages and our YouTube page as well.
Yep, there you go. Go watch Bayou Blitz. Go follow Bob Rose at Athlon Sports. Like I said, one of the best in the business. Truly underrated, in my opinion.
Thank you.
And thanks, Bob, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.
Nick, Sean, we've been friends for a while, guys. I love getting together with you, and thank you so much for having me on. Can't wait to do it again, boys.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Bob.
And there you have it. That was Bob Rose of Athlon Sports. And that kind of transition, hey, that was great. I'm kind of speechless there. Like that's why we brought him on, because you're not going to get any, he's straightforward, man, and he knows what he's talking about, and he's going to tell it how it is. He's never biased. That's what I love about Bob. He's always going to see it from both angles.
Been following Bob for a long time. Love his work. Love his articles. He had a great article about Saints need at safety that I thought was excellent and an under the radar need.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Randy.
Yes, Randy, thank you for the support. Thanks for pointing out that Devontae Adams signing to the Rams. That's where I saw that and then looked it up on my phone and shouted it out. So thank you, Randy, for your contributions, man. Appreciate it.
Even you, Tim Dunn, we'll for commenting and staying as entertained. But with that, he said
he'd trade Derek Carr for burger and fries. I mean, I guess it depends where the burger and fries are from, bro. It's got to be double bacon cheeseburger.
Right. So I play the Fox team song here. We're gonna get into it, take a deep dive. Top 3 running backs this year's draft. They possibly hit 9. You heard Bob said if Gentry's there, you got to take him. So we're going to take a deep dive here on Off the Dome Sports. And the number one running back in the draft, what most people say, Ashton Gentry out of Boise State, was a Heisman candidate, 5'9", 215, looks like a little bowling ball in the field. So a lot of people love him, a lot of people hype him up. What do you got to say about that, Nick?
I mean, you said it, Ashton Gentry, Boise State. I got him listed at 5'9", 216. I mean, that's kind of Kamara size, right? Kamara probably listed at like 5'10", 215. Look, breakaway speed, obviously, if you watched any college football last year, you saw Ashton Gentry highlights, right? Like you couldn't go anywhere without seeing a 50-yard touchdown run, which I think he had in 10 of 14 games that he played. I thought I read, which is pretty impressive. What I love most about him though is he seeks out defenders early in the run. He'll almost veer into a defender with the stiff arm or try and break the tackle early so that it causes almost clutter in the rest of, I don't know what I want to say, but the clutter in the amongst the defenders trying to tackle him, as opposed to late in the run, pushing him out of bounds or not being able to get away down the sideline. The way he seeks out defenders is, for his size, we see Derrick Henry do a lot of this too, but the way he does it at his size is almost unprecedented, and that's what I love. It enables him to break off these long 50, 60-yard runs that we saw him rip off almost weekly at Boise State. Slippery runner with excellent stiff arm, a decisive runner. He knows where he wants to go, and he doesn't waste time getting there. He and a lot of that is great vision, but he doesn't fuck around. He gets where he wants to go, and he knows where he wants to go, and he gets there fast. He's going, well, hey, Thomas, that's a great point. Cam Scattaboo, he's coming up later. I don't want to spoil anything, but he's coming up later in the show. We'll get to him. A true home run threat with great blend of power and speed, and just ultimately a first-round grade. And, I hope y'all stick with us, and I don't want to spoil anything, but he's the only first-round grade I have at running back. Look, what you said to Bob earlier, and you were talking about, potentially going, multiple guys going in the first round. Man, I'm just not that guy with running backs. I still do, and we saw Saquon Barkley switch teams
Breaking news,
over 2,000 yards, and really, quite frankly, be the reason that the Eagles got to and won the Super Bowl, and then that overshadowed Derrick Henry's almost equally as amazing year. Really, you know what I mean? Like any other year, we're talking about Derrick Henry like we talked about Saquon Barkley. Derrick Henry had an insane year, so I understand that when you are that piece away at running back and then you find that guy, yes, we saw how great it can be. The Ravens were a great team this year, and the Eagles won the goddamn Super Bowl. So that being understood, I still do not value running back in general as highly as a lot of people do if they think that there are multiple running backs in this draft worth a first-round pick, because I just don't.
I mean, you kind of said the same thing about the quarterbacks last week as well.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think Gentry is the only first-round running back there is in this draft.
And I think running back's deep. And a lot of people tell you running back's deep. I agree with that. There are a lot of starting caliber running backs in this draft. But when I talked in prior episodes about the type of blue chip player that the Saints need, or any team really, but the Saints specifically need at edge rusher or corner, that's what a top 10 pick needs to go towards, right? Because you have multiple of those on the field on every down. You know what I mean? Running back is, man, I've seen the Eagles be good with Miles Sanders. You know what I mean? I've seen the Ravens be good with Gus Edwards, who just got released or informed that he's going to be released by the Chargers. You can be good with just a guy at running back, right? It's when you're one piece away that it really elevates you. And not every team's in that position, and the Saints certainly aren't. So Ashton Genty, can I see him going in the top 10? Absolutely. Is he worthy of a top 10 pick? Sure. Do I think that I think there is a huge fucking drop off from him to the other backs we'll get into here in a second.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, after you Ashton Gentry as a first round pick, and when you really take a deep dive with him at Boise State, that offense was obviously built around him. They could have had the chance to start Malachi Nelson at quarterback, and he's more of a spread type quarterback, and he was from USC, 5-star prospect, but they went instead, and I forgot his name. They went with the white boy, and yeah, and he was decent. He was more like a game manager, and they had more of a power running offense built around Gentry. And what impressed me the most was Gentry's pass blocking, and it's one of the best amongst all prospects. And it was pretty good, pretty elite.
That's great that you bring that up because and I don't know if we've already talked about the other guys we're going to mention here, Amari and Hampton and Caleb Johnson. Those guys struggle in that department. So that can really, that's going to keep you on the field on third down, especially as a rookie, right? That's going to get you third down snaps in the NFL. And no, that's a great point that you bring up because Hampton and Johnson do struggle in that area.
Yeah, and Gentry 7 yards per carry, but what concerns me about Gentry is you went up against Penn State in the playoffs, right? Yep. Penn State top 10, if not was a top 5 rushing defense, less rush yards allowed, and he had 30 carries for 104 yards. Sure, that's a solid game, but it's 3.9 per carry. I believe he had 2 fumbles that game. And his next best rushing defense he played was UNLV. They were a top 25 rushing defense, also limited 3.9 yards per carry. Everybody else, man, it was pretty horrific rushing defense. So, I mean, that's my only concern because, you look at a guy like Amari, who's played better defenses and performed. You look at a guy like Caleb Johnson, which out of the 3, Caleb Johnson has played the best competition when it comes to rushing defense.
At Iowa, for sure, yeah. No,
and we'll get into Caleb Johnson. Johnson. But, that's what kind of scares me because it seems like when he went up against tougher talent, I don't think he shied away. It's just he just wasn't as effective as he was versus these teams that couldn't stop him. Obviously.
It's good that you brought up the fumbling problem because the only knock that I have written down here is in traffic when multiple people in gang tackles, he could get the ball stripped away at the next level. And I mean, so his ball security is an issue, but the kind of home run threat that he is, I mean, yeah, I do think he's and it's hard for me to say a running back is ever top 10. Like I am very low on the position overall. Call that old school, call that, get off my lawn grandpa viewpoints. But unless you are a team that's ready to take the next step and that is your only missing piece, like the Ravens and Eagles that I mentioned. Yeah, like the line, right, sure. Or even that. I think you can get it done. Like, let's pretend like, let's pretend that Kamara's got 2 years left, right? And now Kendre Miller hasn't shown the ability to stay healthy, but he's shown to be good enough when he's gotten the carries, right? We've seen tape where I think he's a very good player when healthy. The problem is he can't stay on the field. But like if Kendre Miller had to be your starting running back after Kamara in the position that the Saints are in, like, yeah, you just got to roll with that. You don't put real capital into drafting your running back when you're not, like Bob said, when you're not ready to compete, like the Saints are in the position they're in.
Yeah, and honestly, like I do think Gentry is going to be a good running back in the NFL, but I don't think considered the situation. I don't think he's worth it for us because I don't think he's that you can't pass up type player, if that makes sense. Like, like I don't think he's that.
He is. You can't, if you need it, he's can't pass up. Definitely.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean. But like
we have other priorities. That is great.
That ain't the Saints. Yeah.
And we got some comments here. DJ Giddens. I don't want to get into that because I was, going to reveal that in the set. We'll get into that. Quayshawn Junkins, Ohio State running back, transferred from Ole Miss. He kind of got overshadowed by Trayvon Hendrickson, which one of the highest average per carry amongst all the running backs in this year's draft class, by the way, at 7 yards per carry. I think Quayshawn is a good running back, but you saw kind of a level of production drop-off when he got to Ohio State because, for one, Hendrickson was better. And for two, he played against better run defenses than the SEC. And, that's crazy sound because SEC used to be all, heavy on defense, run. But honestly, that's not how it is anymore. And then we got a new guy here, Brandon. Gentry's a bum. Okay. And he says, have you guys heard of Cam Scatterby? We'll get into that.
Sure have. He's coming up later here. Don't worry.
So we'll move. We'll keep it rolling with Amari Hampton, another projected first-round pick, and then some people say he's better than Gentry. Some there's a small percentage of them people. Yes. Which, by the way, Gentry, I said it when Bob was on. I think his floor is Ezekiel Elliott. And his floor is Zach Moss because he's kind of got a Zach Moss build. And, if you compare Zach Moss's, tape when he was at Utah coming into the NFL and you compare it with Gentry with Boise State, it kind of looks similar.
You think ceiling of Zeke Elliott, prime Zeke Elliott, which was a problem, awesome player, and a floor of Zach Moss.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're playing a 50-50 game. Right there. So, which Zach Moss, I think he was a second, third round pick. That's if you put it in that terms, you're reaching for Gentry if you draft him in the top 10. Do you think he's more of a Zach Moss or whatever? But we get into Amari Hampton, and I'll throw this right off the back. His ceiling is a Joe Mixon. Ceiling is Joe Mixon. The floor is Latavius Murray, a little smaller.
Yeah, thank you. I have that written down. Here. Yes, for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
I think he had a good 40 time, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he had a good combine as well.
4.46. So we're respectable, if nothing better. It's at least respectable for sure.
But I will say, some of the breakaway runs he had, it always seems he ran out of gas. And he couldn't get to that second level,
His 40 speed is better than his in-game speed.
Right.
There are a lot of running backs like that. Like he is like prime example of that right there. His 40 speed. Yeah, 4.46 is what I have. And just it doesn't look like that when he, like you said, breakaway runs like that. It looks like he's getting caught a lot. Well, he is getting caught a lot. He doesn't have the same in-game speed as he does, put me in bicycle shorts and let me get down in a sprinter stance and run. So.
And Linda Johnson with the comment, Carr cap hit in 2024 was $14 million. He was a top 10 player on the team. Saints need to re-release an entire defense. Saints defense ranked 33 out of 32 teams.
Hey, sounds like Linda, correct me if I'm wrong. Sounds like you're a Derek Carr supporter. So welcome to the team. welcome to the team. There are a few of us over here.
Tim Dunn says Hampton hits the whole fast. That's what she said. But but no, you look at, if you watched any North Carolina football, you would know that he was pretty much the only production out of that offense. And
easily their best player, like far and away.
He had to deal with poor run blocking as well. It was watching his tape, it was kind of hard to watch him try to navigate through these tight holes that easily get murdered as soon as he crosses the line of scrimmage. And I will say maybe if he would have played more of a higher tier Power 5 team, maybe he would be over Gentry. And maybe if he played with better players, he would have been better than what he's shown on tape. Now, if you look at his best defense that he's played, if it loads here, he's played better defenses than Gentry and has produced. NC State, I believe, was like a top 50 run defense. He had 22 carries, 185, 8.4 per carry, 1 touchdown. Let's see.
Oh yeah, look, Amarian Hampton, awesome college running back. No one's denying that. I know what I see when I'm watching this kid, and it's just not gonna translate the way that apparently some scouts or whatever you read, the way some people think he should be drafted. Like, he's gonna be okay. So here's what I have in Amarian Hampton: 6 foot, 221. Size, strength, aggression. A linear runner with almost no wiggle, right? I mean, he runs up high. He has stiff hips. Doesn't have a lot of cutback. Decent receiver, but like we said earlier, will struggle in pass protection. Ultimately, I think he's a high-level backup that could develop into a starter. Lacks in-game speed despite the respectable 40 time that we talked about at 4.46. And ultimately, I have him as a third-round grade. And so I think your ceiling of Joe Mixon, who, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong here. I don't have this looked up, but was he a second-round pick?
Yes, because he was supposed to be a first-round pick, but then he got into trouble. Yeah. Because Sean was thinking about drafting him.
Your ceiling of Joe Mixon, I like that. And what did you say your floor was for Hampton?
Latavius Murray.
Yeah. Another, now Murray was exceptionally tall for a running back at like 6'3", but a high runner who didn't have a lot.
Plays at high level.
Again, didn't have a lot of wiggle. Pretty much just
downhill runner, but he's also good in the receiving game. That's the thing. And that's why I compared him to Joe. And that's why I compared him to Murray, because even though Murray was a downhill runner, he was also not bad in the receiving game. He can play that part,
Yes. But I think Murray was a little fast as far as in-game speed. Again, and I want to stress, like, yes, you're going to say, no, look at Hampton's 40 time. I get it. It's 4.46, respectable. No question. Good even. Really good. Right? If you're in the 4.4s, that's where you want to be. But if you watch him in game, you don't think, man, this guy has some breakaway speed. This guy has NFL level speed. You just don't think. And I think Latavius Murray in the open field was a far faster player than
especially when he was at the Raiders when he broke out.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, man, I kind of agree. I don't see the first round grade on him. Doesn't mean he can't come in and be a first string running back right away. I mean, I think you can kind of compare him to Javonte Williams, who also came out of North Carolina, similar running back. His rookie years showed some very solid promise, and then the injuries kind of delayed him. And maybe Amari Hampton is probably the same guy there. I don't know what his injury situation is like, but a guy when he's healthy can be solid. But there's no superstar that would be. He doesn't have any superstar ability I see on the next level, and I don't think that's a first round grade. I don't. I mean, if you want to draft him in the second, sure. Third, sure, but first round.
Third feels right. Third feels like if Kendre Miller, right? Again, going back to a guy I love to reference, if Kendre Miller is worth a third round pick, then Amari Hampton is worth a third round pick.
Right. And we got some more comments here. Chad Dillon said, "What about the running back from Virginia Tech?" I would have to look him up.
Well, with the 9th, absolutely not, because I don't care who the fucking running back. I don't care if it's Jesus Christ incarnate playing running back. I mean, taking one at 9. Reminds me of Pierre Thomas, who, by the way, was undrafted. and Darren Sproles, who was a later round pick. So you got to remember, like, those are two guys that played way above where they were taken, right? Like, those are you're talking about it. You're talking about almost exceptions, right? And granted, that's what the Saints do well. The Saints have found plenty of Pierre Thomases, right? And Kyrie Robinson and Chris Ivory, undrafted guys. Like, that's what the Saints do. There's no better team in the league at finding undrafted players, specifically at the running back position, than the New Orleans Saints over the last 20 fucking years. But at the 9th, there ain't no running back the Saints should be taking at 9. That's a, and we said it in prior episodes, that is a edge rusher, and that is a corner, in my opinion. So
Brayshaw Tutton, that's what he's talking about. 5'9", 206. If anything, the Saints are going to draft a bruiser, because you already got Kamara.
That's what they're missing, because you cut Jamal Williams, which you thought he'd be, but my God, one of the worst players I've ever seen in my life. So, yeah, you need that physical goal line type running back.
Let's see. Linda Johnson. Draft only defensive players. Spend money for offensive line. No quarterback could throw with broken ribs from the ground. Mahomes just proved during the Super Bowl that a quarterback can't play when the offensive line crumbles.
Linda, you are my spirit animal. Oh, my God. You are speaking my language. Yes, Linda, welcome. Absolutely. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Like, when Bob was talking about it earlier, and he was about to bring up the defense, I said, "Boy, that defense is bad." And he said, "Absolutely." Like the defense was bad. And I was the 2-3 years prior, I was a champion of this defense, playing over their head. Dennis Allen really getting better production than probably what was on the roster at that time, because, like I said, the lack of depth from the last 4 years over the prior 4 years from 17 to 20. So, but the defense got old fast, and it got incredibly hurt, right? Injury riddled fast. So I agree. Defensive players only. I'd be great with that. Spend money on the offensive line, just like Sean said. Mekhi Becton. I mean, that's a great free agent target, right? At left guard, a plug and play guy. Like, bingo, that solves that position. And yeah, get younger and cheaper, faster on the defense. I think speed is like, and you can say like play recognition and diagnosing things, but I think speed overall is like the one thing that I saw on the defense this year that was really a problem. And I think you saw that with Marshawn Lattimore, who the Saints fleeced the Commanders on that trade. I think that's pretty safe to say. Absolute fleece job. So everyone that wants to kill Mickey Loomis, like, by the way, we shipped Marshawn Lattimore off and got a 3rd round pick, which was generous. But the defense got old, slow, and injured. So I agree with Linda. I mean, how many picks the Saints have? We have 9 picks this year?
7
of them on defense. You know what I mean? 7 pass rushers, big, beefy defensive tackles now that we lost a couple, right? And, maybe a safety like Bob Rose has written about. But, yeah, the defense has got to be – and that's where, like, when the Saints were in – I don't want to say their heyday because we won the Super Bowl in 2009, but like when the Saints won the most games in the NFL from 2017 to 2020, we're talking about guys like Trey Hendrickson weren't even a starter. And this is an all-pro who's now requesting a trade from the Bengals. Like, Zach Bond, we couldn't figure out how to use him. Like, we had real depth here. Now, whether they should have been on the field or not over other guys, that's a different conversation. But talking about guys being on the physical roster that are like excellent, great top tier players. The Saints had unreal depth. And if an injury occurred, you had a plug and play guy, and it's almost like you didn't miss a beat, and that's what we need to get back to, especially when they're cheap, like they would be on rookie deals.
Right. And, we'll get into this guy next, but I absolutely agree. I mean, you got to go defense. You got to get younger on defense. I mean, the defense is the oldest unit of the team because you went young on offense the past couple of years, with the offensive line, the wide receivers. The only thing you didn't went young was your quarterback and running back, and because when you think about it, you had Trevor Penning, you just draft recently. You drafted Olave. You drafted Funga. McCoy's still relatively young. Ruiz was still relatively young. And you got all these guys. Shaheed, was undrafted, young. Like the offense is young. The defense is old. Where you had your veterans like Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Marshawn Lattimore, but we traded him, which you just said was a fleece. Like, thank you.
Honestly, all-time fleece. How bad was he? He is bad. He is a bad commander.
AJ Brown was eating it for lunch, bro.
Bad. His boy Mike Evans put his dick all over his face. For sure, dude. Like, just an absolute fleece job by Mickey Loomis. I mean, that was, an extra third-round pick. We'll take that for a guy that, I mean, wasn't in the Saints' future. So.
Yeah, but we're not worried about next year's cap hit because we have a good amount of cap space to soar.
Our cap hit was going to be $52 million down to $20 million, but next you freed up
$30 million.
$30 million this year. If you want to, if the idea, right? If the goal is to be good this coming season, this is what had to happen. Now.
Bob just said
it. Could you have had more? Is there a way that the Saints could have benefited from this more? Yeah. But why would Derek Carr do the Saints a favor when this, honestly, sorry, Saints fans, if you've been following me for a long time, if you followed me back when I was on Twitter, if you know me going back 10 years, like some of y'all might, if some of you idiot Saints fans, if some of you dumbest fan base in the NFL fans, like, why would Derek Carr do this fan base a favor with the way that you people have treated him? Like, y'all have really crushed this man for, quite frankly, no reason.
Attacking his family,
and I hear, and again, I don't want to like go against what Bob said earlier because I do appreciate him on the spot, and I kind of asked him that question. It's not like we met with Bob earlier and I said, hey, I'm going to ask you about Derek Carr. So I do appreciate his like real authentic thoughts on that subject. And I hear what he's saying about not showing up to New Orleans like during Super Bowl week when the Super Bowl is in your city. Like I get that. But I think what we have to understand as fans, and you're from Louisiana. I bleed Louisiana. I love New Orleans and the Gulf Coast. Like, you see in the background, I got tons of Saints shit. Like, you see my Saints sweatshirt, usually not tonight, but every week. Some of y'all see my tattoos. Like, major love for New Orleans, not being a native, right? So I get what he's saying there. But we have to understand that, like, not everyone is going to feel that way. Like, not everyone's going to vibe with New Orleans just because it's the New Orleans that we know or that we fuck with. You know what I'm saying?
And Tim Dunn actually agrees with you said.
I wouldn't get the money back either. Imagine your employer. Let's just like I'm so glad he brought that up because this is a thing that I've said in the past. Like, the way I say to people in the past is like, if your boss came to you and said, hey, we know you've been doing a really good job, probably outperforming what you've been getting paid, but man, we really need you to take a pay cut because of fucking mistakes that we've made over the years. I tell my boss to go fuck themselves. Right here. You can fucking suck on these. Right here, baby. Both of these. Like, fuck you. I wouldn't fucking take that pay cut either.
And what's up, Jerry G?
What's up, Jerry? Derek Carr told the Saints exactly what I would have told the Saints. Go fuck yourselves. Or any employer, you ain't coming to me. Don't come to me for a pay cut. Because it ain't gonna be me.
He is brand new here. Welcome, Jared G. Welcome to the Off the Dome Sports
Gary, we love it, man. We love it. Thank you. Thank you
Feel
for the
free to
follow. Thank
call
you for the
in.
love. Thank you for the comments. No doubt.
Feel free to call in and mention anything you want to get off your chest about the Saints. Go ahead. Or anything. Just call in. Shit. Tim Dunn says OG. But let's get back into this running backs. Caleb Johnson, a guy that I really like a lot, and honestly, like in terms of value, like I do know Gentry is number one, but in terms of value and where you can get him second, third round, I don't think he's going to go first round. But if you can get him in the second, if you get him in the third, I think you're getting excellent value there. And truthfully, he's probably, if there wasn't a Gentry in this draft, he's my number one running back. And the thing is, Caleb Johnson, dude. And I liked what I saw on tape. I really did. And I get a lot of my scouting from draftbuzz.com, which is a great, phenomenal website. Tells you everything. They give accurate scouting reports. A guy that ran a 4.57, I'm not too worried about it because he didn't show that on tape.
It wasn't a great 40 time, but the first note that I have written down here on Caleb Johnson, I'm so glad you brought that up. Faster version of Hampton, if only slightly. He looks on like in-game speed. He looks faster and more explosive than Amari and Hampton, who had a better 40 time.
Dude, by far, honestly. And they got him labeled as a workhorse back, and that's what you saw at Iowa.
That's what he was at Iowa. Better competition. Like you said, he played the best run defenses and the best level of competition at the collegiate level. So,
I mean, he had 15 attempts, 86 yards, 5.7 per carry, and a touchdown against Ohio State. I mean, 86 yards on only 15 carries. I mean, against a top 10 defense. I mean, you went up against Michigan State, was a top 30 run defense, 14 carries, 98 yards. He's had a game against Washington, which wasn't a great run defense, but 21 carries, 166 yards, 7.9 per carry, 2 touchdowns. Like, I mean, this guy, what he showed on tape, man, like, he could catch the ball. He could be your check downs. He could straight up bully. All three of these running backs are highly similar. They're hard nosed, and then they could be your check down guy. And
now I will say, you say that though. So you're saying that he's going to be on the field on third down because one of the biggest, I have this in capital letters, we'll see almost no third down work in the NFL. See, I disagree. I don't think he'll be on the field on third down.
Well, you got to know who Iowa is and what they do and who they had at quarterback. It's kind of a similar situation with Boise State. You had an offense kind of geared around his hard-nosed running ability, but what I saw on tape was a guy that was catching balls just like Gentry down the field, not just check downs like Amari Hampton. I mean, this guy runs like a thoroughbred track star horse. I mean, it's you go against the level of competition that, Gentry played in the playoffs. You saw a night and day difference. Caleb Johnson didn't get to play Utah State. He didn't get to play Wyoming. He didn't get to play all these teams. And sure, Gentry played against Oregon, but they were a top 40 run defense out of the Big Ten. Like, one of the worst run defenses in the Big Ten, middle of the pack. But you look at the tape versus Ohio State, and you look at some other games against these big time run defenses, and he flat out performed pretty much the offense for Iowa. I mean, you had K. McNamara, which was a transfer, I believe, from Northwestern, like at quarterback. I mean, I can't remember the last time Iowa had a quarterback that I can even think of their name besides, what's his name? Befford, when he played for the 49ers, CJ Befford. That's the only quarterback that I even remember. Maybe Stanley from a couple years ago, but he didn't even make an NFL roster. Yeah. So, like you come from the Big Ten, which is known for running the ball, playing against these big-time guys. He kind of was similar. So I got him labeled as like a Brian Robinson.
Okay. Well, it's to my point though. Sean, that's a great comparison. You're almost making my point for me.
But no, if you watch Brian Robinson,
good player, almost no third down work though.
No. Look. Brian Robinson's first year, you are correct. But the last 2 seasons, he has become more of a third down running back. And I know they had Eckler, but
right.
Let's see. Running back third down.
Hold that thought. I'll be right back.
And we got some more comments here. Some more praise for Jerry G. What's up? Imagine having a YouTube channel as a Saints fan and spending any amount of time talking about quarterback's financial situation. Okay. Shout out to Tim Dunn for the invite. Love meeting new Saints content creators. It's expansive. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shout out your content if you have any, Jerry. Sounds like you do. We'll post it on the screen for you. Family can disagree and family can argue, but we all want the Saints to win. You're absolutely right, Linda. OG underwear. But no, I have Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson is a Brian Robinson-like running back. Brian Robinson, his first year as a rookie, yes, he was a hard-nosed runner and he was power runner. And, you look at the last 2 seasons, especially under Cliff this past year, he's been used, even under Eric Bieniemy, like he was more used as a receiving back more often than he was his rookie year. And that's why I do have Caleb Johnson as a Brian Robinson type. Another guy I was going to mention about Caleb Johnson that kind of similar is the Braylon Allen. Even though Braylon Allen is a bigger running back.
Yeah.
Like he's a huge monster,
I mean, I have high hopes for him. Sure.
Another Big Ten running back. I feel like he's getting gate kept with the New York Jets because of Breece Hall, and he needs to go somewhere where he can be a top tier running back. Well, I think he is, but
I think Allen might be the best running back on the Jets. Yeah,
I'm not saying he has the same talent level as Allen, but the thing is, I saw some similarities, and Braylon Allen, he's also another hard-nosed runner is going to run you over, but he's also a factor in the receiving game as well. He's almost like a tight end out there for how big he is. And I kind of view Caleb Johnson the same way. And you would see that if he got into offense where they actually used their running backs in the receiving game. What I was saying about Brian Robinson while you were out, Nick, that when you saw him under Eric Bieniemy, you saw him under Cliff, he did play more third downs. I couldn't find a stat because nobody has a stat for third downs. They just show team third down conversions or whatever. That's all it shows. But he's definitely been used in the receiving game more often. And honestly, that's why when you think about it, Brian Robinson has been more of a top 10, top 15 fantasy PPR running back because of those receptions he has had. So, that's why he's been a consistent running back in fantasy. I know fantasy's not real life, but if you want to prove his receiving, like he's been higher in PPR rankings, when you think about it. So that's my comparison with Caleb Johnson. He's one of my favorite running backs in the draft. My sleeper I do really like, but I'm going to get your thoughts on Caleb Johnson first, and then we go to our sleepers.
Yeah, Caleb Johnson, I just only a couple notes on him, but I mean, faster version of Hampton, like I said, if only slightly. Stiff hips, little bend, kind of like we talked about with Amari and Hampton, just a bigger, taller guy. Like I said, we'll see almost no third down work, even though you seem to think you seem to think differently. But ultimately, I have a third round grade on him as well. If you want to say that he's above Amari and Hampton, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I really just wouldn't be going out of my way to get these guys. And because we said running back is so deep in this draft, like third round feels right for these guys.
Okay, let's say, and we know Gentry's not going to get this far, but let's say all three make it to the second, third round. The Saints have the ability to draft them. Let's just say, hypothetically,
Okay.
who do you think is the best fit out of those three for the Saints? Because to me, it's Caleb Johnson, because I think he would mesh so well with Alvin Kamara. He's like the perfect type you want with Kamara.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but don't draft someone just because of the guy of the 30-year-old that you gave a 2-year extension to. Like, you're still drafting Genty there. Like, you're not. I wouldn't be so hung up on like who works best with Alvin Kamara, who will be here at least one more year, but 2 tops. Like, I don't know. I'm still taking Genty. And honestly, he's probably the best. Love Alvin Kamara. Love what he's done for the Saints. Had a really good career. Genty's the best. If Genty's a Saint, he's the best running back on the roster.
Well, honestly, besides Amari Hampton, Gentry or Caleb Johnson, I think would be the best running back on the roster.
Wow. Okay. All right. And that's a statement from you. Sure. Okay.
I think Amari has the potential with good coaching and development. He could potentially be the best running back on the roster. But I think he's got some things he needs to work on. Kind of like Javonte Williams. He was more of a raw prospect coming out of North Carolina. A guy you see gets a lot of receiving, which is what today's running backs are. But what the Saints are looking for is that bruiser. You're going to need somebody to replace Taysom when you eventually put that post-June 1 cut on him. You're going to need somebody with that Taysom ability at running back. And then we'll get into our sleepers, because the running back you have for your sleeper honestly reminds me of Taysom Hill if he was a running back.
I agree.
And you can go ahead and talk about it if you want to move on to Cam Scatterboo, Arizona State.
Yes.
Which I completely forgot to play the highlights for each player, but we'll play some for Cam Scatterboo. Let's see.
Hey, man.
I mean, here's some highlights.
You can't argue with the production, right? You can't argue with the production.
I mean, look at this. If that doesn't scream Taysom Hill, I don't know what does.
They're just the come here.
I mean, you're talking about a guy that literally led a team to the playoffs and almost advanced over Texas and probably would have beaten Notre Dame, in my opinion.
Look at this. The speed. He has that in-game speed is no different from Hampton or Johnson. I'm sorry. It's not. It's not.
No.
It's just not. Like, it's absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah, Cam Scatterboo. Look, the notes I have on him is reads blocks very well and has good vision. Feels like I just said, feels as fast as Hampton and Johnson. Excellent contact balance. Multiple clips right there. And if you just go and just watch his film, multiple times where he is almost on the ground and finds a way to stay up. I don't want to say never. No, never's not right. That's hyperbolic. Rarely do you see that level of contact balance. Excellent receiving ability, even at the NFL level. And I think this is my biggest point about Cam Scatterboo. If Danny Woodhead and Rex Burkhead can have long careers in the NFL, there is no fucking reason that Cam Scatterboo can't, because he is better than either of those.
He's way bigger than those two, too. Way bigger. Better. Just a better overall player. Look, that level of production at the collegiate level, and ultimately I'll transition this into my last point, would make guess what his pro comparison is.
Would make him the best fifth. I mean, I have him as a 5th round grade. I think he's better than that, but I think he'll go in the 5th round. Is that the best 5th round running back ever? Like, what are we talking about here? That's a guy. Whoever gets Cam Scatterboo is getting an absolute contributor and just an absolute steal in the draft, in my opinion. What's his comp? What's the comp you have?
He's got 3 of them, and this is in order.
Okay.
Kendre Miller.
Okay.
Zach Charbonnet, which I really like that.
If you're in our fantasy league, you know Zach Charbonnet. That's my guy. That's the best running back on the Seattle Seahawks, in my opinion. Go ahead.
Honestly, I think Scatterboo has more shift than Zach Charbonnet.
Okay.
He's swifter too. And then there's Eric Gray, which I don't get that comparison at all. But
okay. No, but my point is, like, he's going to be whoever gets him is going to draft. He's going to be drafted way too late. He is going to so far exceed his draft position. It's going to be scary, man. It's going to be scary. Whoever gets him is getting an absolute steal in the 2025 NFL draft.
Well, you look at the running backs that Kellen Moore has had, Saquon Barkley. They drafted Will Shipley out of Clemson. Ezekiel Elliott. You look at those guys, and this is what the role is listed for Cam Scatterboo, and it's right on par with the running backs that Kellen Moore has had throughout his coaching career, a dual role back. That's what he's labeled as. And you look at the running backs that Kellen Moore has coached. I mean, maybe that's the guy, He's
an excellent receiver. Like, the receiving ability that he showed in college, to me, we're talking about a third-round pick here. He is no worse than Hampton or Johnson, in my opinion. Like, we're talking about a third-round pick here. But he's probably going to go. He's probably going to go in the fifth. You know what I mean?
And the only reason why he's not rated as high is because of his 40 time. Like,
sure, let's call it what it is. The motherfucker's Caucasian. You know what I mean? Like, let's call it what it is. It just is what it is.
Give the man a break, bro. Look. You look at that playoff game against Texas. 30 carries, 143 yards, 4.8 per carry, 2 touchdowns. Had 8 receptions for 99 yards, dude. And that was a top 20 defense.
Yeah.
That was a top 10 run defense.
He's legit, man. He is legit. And
I almost picked him too, Nick. We were thinking the same way. This entire running back class, we're kind of thinking the same way.
Whoever gets him is just because I know he's going to go so fucking late. Whoever gets Cam Scatterboo is just getting a winner. And I know whatever, it's not saying like he's a winner, like he's a quarterback, but just a workhorse guy that, like you said, dragged his team to the college football playoffs, and he just does it all, man. He's a 3-down back.
Who's your comparison?
If Danny Woodhead and Rex Burkhead had NFL careers, right, as white running backs, there ain't no fucking reason that Cam Scatterboo can't have success at the next level.
Who's your comparison?
A mixture of both of those guys that I just mentioned. Danny Woodhead, a great receiving back, and Rex Burkhead, also a great receiving back. But look,
to me, he's James Conner. Like,
okay. Oh, yeah. I didn't want to put that. Okay, hey, put that on there.
And ever since James Conner went to Arizona, he's been a solid receiving back since he joined Arizona.
Absolutely, love James Conner.
Yeah,
local Erie, Pennsylvania native. Absolutely, man.
And before I get into my sleeper, let's catch up on these comments. Now with Devontae Adams off the list because he signed with the Rams, any free agents in mind? I guess
that receiver, no. No. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. There we go. Like we talked about it for the last month,
Randy says DK Metcalf is going to the Steelers.
Oh, Randy, updating us. Is this real time? Whoa. Why we've been recording? Hang on.
Randy, news
Randy drop. Hey, Randy, you want a job, bro? Hey. Oh, they're sending, for a second-round pick.
Holy shit.
Okay. Hey, man. Let's go. DK on my fantasy team. Yes.
Bro, Randy, man.
Yes.
Hey, look, we got to get you. Look, we got to play a sound for that. Let's see. I got you. Let me turn that bitch up. Let's see.
God dang. God dang.
Wow. Anyway,
Okay, Metcalf to the Steelers for it. Yeah. And they signed him to a 4-year extension. Yep.
Linda says, Randy with the receipts.
Randy, going above and beyond for Off the Dome. We appreciate you, brother.
And Jerry says,
I got my phone here next to me, but I'm really not looking at it and staying up to date. So, could any players help the offensive line? Drew Dahlman, Will Freeze, Kevin Zeitler, Mekhi Becton, and that's something that we talked about the last couple of shows. Sean's brought up Mekhi Becton as a slot in at left guard. Absolutely. You know what I mean? If we're gonna have, what'd you say, Sean? About 20 million projected, and
if they go that far.
If they go that far. Okay. Yeah,
that's the most they can have.
But and I know Linda said, draft defense and spend on offensive line, but I personally don't think offensive line is as big of a need. Now what Bob said before is we ran into some issues with depth on the offensive line when all the injuries hit, but maybe I haven't quite learned my lesson as a Saints fan over the last couple of years, but I'd like to not feel the need to draft based on how injuries have played out. I'd like to not, be beholden to that. So, do they need offensive line help? No, I don't think. Like our starting offensive line, given everyone's health, I love it. I love our offensive line. I don't like it. I love it.
Well, you're definitely going to have to address the left guard position, and I think you could do that through free agency. Obviously, we've been saying Mekhi Becton,
and Mekhi Becton fills that need, like you brought up. That's your answer right there.
And like we said in previous shows, you get Mekhi Becton, you automatically have one of the best run offensive lines in the league, in my opinion. Let's get to some more comments. Christian McCaffrey is one of a kind, Hey, he needs a gig badly.
Hey,
DM us. DM us.
That's up to Sean. This is his baby. I just, you know what I mean?
You could also call in.
Sean pays for all this shit, so you got to talk to him.
We could use some help on paying that. Maybe get some guests on here. Pay for some guests. Randy with the receipts. Awesome, yep. Randy. Thanks for the head up.
No, seriously, thank you for the heads up, though. That's a huge help. You bring in the Devontae Adams news and then this DK Metcalf signing or trade. So, Randy, God dang.
Anyway, so let's get into my sleeper here. This is a guy you can get in the 4th, 5th round. Somebody mentioned it earlier. I kind of gave it away. It's my guy DJ Giddens out of Kansas State, man. 6'1", 212, ran a 4.43. A guy that you've seen at Kansas State and fit perfect in that offense. The head coach, formerly from North Dakota State. So you look at DJ Giddens, and I'm going to pull up his highlight tape right here. You're talking about a guy, and it freezes up for a second, but come on, but you're looking at a guy that he's just going to get every yard he can, bro. Hey, look at that's on Shiloh Sanders right there. If you want a guy to replace Alvin Kamara, this is the guy right here, dude.
Sure. And I think it's worth bringing up, Sean. You bring up Kamara. I think it's worth bringing up that when I was doing some research this afternoon, and I was looking at 40 times for these running backs just over the last 10 years. Kamara's 40 time was awful.
Yeah.
His 40 time was terrible. It's awful. Absolutely awful. So, speed isn't the be all end all. Definitely helps, but no, the contact balance of this kid's showing, and the shifting. I mean, just the 1 foot in the ground and gone. Like that's tough. That's tough, man.
And the guy,
Get
yeah, look at that. Damn, bro.
Done. Goodbye. Woo!
And the guy that I have him compared to is Chuba Hubbard. Like,
that's a hey.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a good comparison from what I just saw there. Absolutely. Yep.
Yes, you're talking about a guy that is hard nosed. He could be shifty. He could be a factor in the receiving game. You're talking about a dog here, like a straight up dog who's just gonna fight, man. He may not run you over. He may not, even though he ran a 4.43, which is fast. He may not have the greatest in game speed. But the guy's going to fight for every yard. He's going to find a way to get that extra yard. And that's what I love about him. He has the home run ability. I literally see him running routes like a wide receiver. I mean, this guy did it all at Kansas State. And you watch the Pop-Tart Bowl. Dude was amazing. 151 yards, 14 carries. On 14 carries, I believe. Let's see. He's also ranked 17th in college football with 6.6 a carry, and he's just an efficient, effective runner. They played NC State in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Rushed for 151 yards. I'm trying to see the attempts here. Here we go. 28 carries, 151 yards, 5.4 carry, 1 touchdown. And that's what he had in the Pop-Tart Bowl. They won 28-19. If you go watch that tape, carry by carry, I mean, it was clear that he was the best player on the field, in my opinion. And I know it's NC State. I know it's Kansas State. But you're still talking about 2 Power 4 conferences going at it. And he also had 1 reception for 37 yards for 1. That was a touchdown catch. One reception for 37 yards for a touchdown. So, 37 yards. And that's the play I was talking about where he was running actual routes down the field, and you're talking about a guy that can replace Kamara. He's your guy. You can get him in between the 3rd to 5th round. You get him or Cam Scatterboo. I mean, you got a deep running back room. You got Kamara, the veteran, who can still be way productive in all-purpose yards. You still got Kendre Miller, who has the promise. You get a guy like DJ Giddens or Cam Scatterboo in that mix, you might got something there.
The only running back that I would take, and it is my sleeper, Cam Scatterboo. If he's there in like the 5th or 6th, if he really falls to where I think he could fall, the value is just so insane at that point that you can't pass up on him.
Crazy good. But yeah, man.
I just want to make it clear. I don't think that the Saints need a running back. You have to. I'm going to give one more. Show me one more year that Kendre Miller can't stay healthy. Because if he can't, then fine. But I think that Kendre Miller is a very good player when he's on the field. So. But he has 1 year left. Well, he signed a 2-year extension, Linda. So who knows what they could do, down the road. You could be right, 1 year left. We'll see what Kamara has, but I just don't, like we said again at the top of the show. The Saints are clearly not a team, right? Very clearly not a team that is one piece away, specifically at the running back position, to being a Super Bowl contender. So running back is not an area of need for them, right? You could get by with, if Kendre Miller proves that he can be healthy, a guy like Kendre Miller. You don't have to go out of your way to replace Alvin Kamara. or get a successor to him, because I believe he's already on the team. I trust in Kendre Miller, and if he can just stay on the field, like, the guy has all the ability in the world. I really think he's a good player. So, and he's a guy that you invested a 3rd round pick in. So do you want to just like admit defeat on that? I guess he'd have to show me one more year of just, my God, okay, fine. He just can't stay healthy. It's never going to happen. Okay, then you cut bait, fine. But man, with the collegiate tape, right, and what he's shown in limited time with the Saints, I'm a Kendre Miller believer. So I don't think the Saints have a huge need at running back. But hey, and even Bob said, like, Kellen Moore, right, an offensive guy. It'd be tough to pass up Genty at 9. Now, he doesn't think that they would take him, but, he said Kellen Moore, offensive guy, who you never know. I love watching Ashton Genty every week. I tell you that. So now, do I think they should? No. Do I think they will? No. Yeah, I'd find a way to love it,
Well, to piggyback off what you said about the running back room for the Saints right now, if we had the running back, sure, why not? You found you an undrafted guy that could battle up with Mims to finish out that 3rd running back spot. But in my opinion, obviously it's not the highest priority. I think it's a mid priority. They do need to find
very middle priority. Yeah, I'd even go low priority, but mid at best. Like, it's just not a priority. Like, given the kind of the team the Saints are projected to be, right, or everyone thinks they're going to be, lucky to win the division at best, right? Yeah, you don't need to be drafting a running back with any kind of significant draft capital. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about like 5th round pick at best, which
Cam Scatterboo, bro.
Where I had Cam Scatterboo,
DJ Giddens.
So, you get a guy like that, you're just going to get great value with Scatterboo. I can't stress enough where he's going to go. I hope he goes higher, because I think he's a 3rd round grade. But I think he's going to go like 5th, 6th round. So
because of the 40 time, yeah.
But just because he's white. I'm going to call it what it is, right? You can be politically correct and say 40 time. You know me. We're going off the dome here, baby. I'm calling it. He's Caucasian.
You never seen White Man Can't Jump?
I'm 37. I'm going to be 37 years old on Friday. I've seen White Man Can't Jump. Absolutely.
There's some hope. I know it's not the NFL, but when you got guys like, well, shit, the NFL, Cooper DeJean, man,
listen, they're just the stigma. The production is there. The receiving ability is there. I think that's what stands out the most to me with Cam Scatterboo. And like I said, if guys,
we do got to call him.
Like a Danny Woodhead, like a Rex Burkhead. If they can have NFL careers, there ain't no fucking reason that Cam Scatterboo can't.
We do got to call in. First call in.
Go ahead.
Hello, you're live on Off the Dome Sports. How's it going? Yes, sir. This is Sean and Nick. How's it going?
All is well. This is Jerry calling from Gulfport, Mississippi. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Jerry. Welcome to Off the Dome Sports. We appreciate you for chiming in. We see that everybody's calling you the OG. What makes you the OG, Jerry?
Our people in the chat knows that yes, I'm a Saints fan, and I follow like different Saints content creators. I mean, you name it, I follow them. Of all Saints podcasts, and when it comes to like New Orleans Saints talk, you gotta chime in and talk about it, even if it's during the season or off season. I mean, this is what I do.
Absolutely. So, let me ask you a question here. What do you think, and we're going to put you on the spot here, and we kind of covered it early in the show. What do you think about Derek Carr's restructure?
Well, after looking at that, John, and I'm really on the fence, but it is what it is. I mean, I know a lot of Saints fans, including myself, don't like it, but it is what it is. I always say this all the time that us Saints fans can't control the players and the contract situations and all that stuff. That's on them. Only thing that we do is just support it and just go for the long haul. And that's about it.
So Jerry, let me ask you this: he's Derek Carr. That's the best option the Saints have, right?
And something else. Free agency it really haven't started yet, and they're already making big splashes on Sunday, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. That is crazy. That actually is crazy. That's a great point.
Right. Yeah, it's not. Free agency hasn't even officially started, man. It's already popping off, and I think Saints fans need to.
Not till what, Thursday, right? Am I right? Like, what is it? Like the 13th?
I think it's tomorrow. Free agency tomorrow, Nick.
Is it tomorrow? Okay.
I don't think he can hear you. I think that's why he's not responding to you.
I got you.
I don't know how we can get it to where we're here.
Oh, we'll figure that out down the road.
Nick was asking when does a free agency officially start? Do you know?
It officially starts on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Okay, so I thought it was Thursday, Wednesday. Okay. No, that's crazy. The amount of activity, the amount of player movement that we've had.
Just put it in, and I think some start Monday, and some start, and the seniors on Tuesday. But free agency starts on Wednesday. I think around like 3. I think it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think it's like one of them is like the afternoon, or I think it's like Eastern time. I think it's either 3 or 4. I'm not sure, but I know it's on Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
And let me ask you one more question. What do you think about Ashton Gentry? If he was there at 9, would you take him?
I can't hear him.
He was going to be the game changer when we brought him in, but they wasn't using him a lot. So, but Ashton Gentry is at number 9. I got no problem scooping him up. Him and Kamara would be a great running back duo, just like it was with Kamara and England. If that happens, if it's not, it's okay. And I hear Saints fans talking about the last few days, talking about, we need to get Devontae Adams coming through New Orleans. We need to get DK Metcalf. I think, well, you ain't gonna have to worry about that.
You ain't gonna worry about that anymore. They're gone.
They're done. That just happened in the last hour.
Devontae
Adams just signed a 2-year deal with the Rams, and DK Metcalf shout out to Randy Major for that breaking news. He went to the Steelers for 4 years, and shout out to Tim Dunn for giving me the invite to come this way, because I didn't know anything about it until I looked it up and said, there they are. And I just subscribed to the channel. So here we are.
Hey, we appreciate you, Jerry. And where can the folks find you on any social media to talk about the Saints?
Well, you can find me on YouTube at Jerry G.
Jerry G.
You just type in Jerry G. You just type Saints at the end. You'll see a notice search already, a profile pic. That's me.
Yes, sir. We'll see you in the comments. Jerry, we really appreciate your time, and thank you for calling in. It really means a lot. You're one of our first call-in callers. So we really appreciate you. and shoot us a DM. Maybe we'll collab. That would be awesome.
Sounds like a plan, my brother. Once again, thanks for having me here. Shout out to the chat. Thanks for having me. I see Linda. I see Randy. I see Kim. All the rest of them that is on there, them the originals to me. So
yeah.
Wherever I go, they come too.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. We're talking about the Who Dat Nation. Who Dat?
Who Dat, baby?
All right, Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry, thank you for bringing over, anyone you can, man. Linda, Randy, thank you for the comments, for the breaking news with the, Devontae Adams and DK Metcalf news. And that's stuff that I have my phone next to me, while we're doing the live show. But again, we're live. So I'm not sitting here checking breaking news with, receivers going to other teams. So I definitely appreciate you guys alerting us to, what's going on as we're recording. So big help. Thank you.
And I do apologize. I would have kept Jerry on longer, to be honest with you, but I haven't figured out this phone situation.
We'll get the audio cleaned up for sure.
Yeah. So
yep.
We do appreciate you, Jerry. That was fun. He just commented. I
can hear Jerry most of the time, but it was a little choppy at times. So
but
we'll get it cleaned up.
Plus, he couldn't hear what you said. That was right.
If he couldn't hear me, right? Yeah. So what's the point? But we'll get it. Hey, again, everyone watching, we appreciate you. We appreciate the comments. We appreciate the growth that we've had. It might seem little in the grand scheme of things, but again, we don't get paid to do this. Sean and I do this out of recreation. Really, you know what I mean? We're just two Saints fans. Christ, he used to live in Louisiana. Now he's in North Carolina. Been in Erie, PA my entire life. I like to think that we give it to you guys through a different lens than local media might otherwise give it to you, especially if you want to bring up that Nick Underhill tweet, which was fucking disgusting in my opinion. But we plan on doing a live draft show. We would love for everyone to to really be engaged in that, and hopefully we can really figure out the the call-in line by then and get some super clear audio so we can get everyone's live opinions on the Saints, who the Saints pick or who they don't pick.
Absolutely. And I would say this is the real fans right here. This is the real fans, OG fans, and this is what we like to do off the dome sports. We like to go off the dome. We like to hear what people are off the streets are saying, not just media folks. Even though Bob's part of the media, he's very much.
And Bob knows this. Bob knows this. I've been reading Bob, and I've been listening to Bob for a long time. Bob and I used to communicate on Twitter. I'm no longer on Twitter. He is. But Bob knows I got nothing but love and respect for him. So I don't, when I say Saints media and I criticize Saints media, I am not talking about Bob Rose.
Yes.
I'm talking about, y'all know, if y'all have followed me long enough, y'all know who I'm talking about. So I'm talking about other Saints media. So
I like to call them the Saints mob.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's going to do it here on Off the Dome Sports. Unless you got anything to say, Nick.
No, man, I think we covered the running backs. It's not a position that the Saints need to take because, again, we're not going to be a contender. Could we contend to win the division? Sure. But that's not the kind of contender that we're talking about. So I don't, especially at 9, right? If we're talking about at pick 9 where the Saints are right now, yeah, we're definitely not taking a running back. But, later in the draft, I would still say no, unless it's my sleeper, Cam Scatterboot, in the 5th, 6th round, should he happen to fall that far, like I think he will. No, but I don't have anything else for that, man.
Absolutely. And we can't go without saying thank you to our sponsors, our mock sponsors that we wish one day we'll have. It's going to be this.
We'll get to Hey, we're going to have if I tell y'all nothing else about this podcast, no matter where they're from, no matter what they're piping out, we will have sponsors one day. That I can assure you.
Hopefully somebody like Old Spice, smell like that swagger, and then maybe Taco Bell, get your late night needs. You know, when you get the late night munchies, that's the perfect place to go.
I am hungry.
Hey, go to Taco Bell, download the app. You can get some good deals on the app.
All right.
By the way. But that's going to do it here off the Dome Sports. And we'll catch you next Sunday, every Sunday. Next week, we're going to cover the wide receivers. We're going to do top 5 wide receivers. Top 5 wide receivers because it's more of an expanded list.
Sure.
But yeah. But catch us next Sunday.
Give me a cold drink. When I get that cold drink, I'm finna bust it.
At 7 p.m.
I'm finna bust it. When I get that cold drink, I'm finna bust it. I'm finna bust it. Bitch, I'm finna go to the store and give me a cold drink. When I get that cold drink,